Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. This is your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. My name is Dr. Benjamin. I'm the host of this podcast. I am a licensed naturopathic doctor at Alter Health, and I practice holistic lifestyle medicine all around the world. You can find out more at www.alter.health. And today on the podcast, I'm continuing something new. Last week, for the first time ever, I recorded an episode just me blabbering about what I wanted to blabber about, which hopefully was relevant to what you wanted to hear about. And I'm going to give it another go today. I did get some feedback that it was positive. People liked that format of the podcast for a change. So I'm going to continue to do that. I don't know for how long. Uh, no promises, but I am going to do it today. That's all I know. And we'll just kind of play it week by week. I am not putting an end to interviews on the podcast, but I am selecting interviews very mindfully, knowing that, I want to maintain this clear mission and this clear voice in this podcast, one of hope, one of healing, one of self-healing and empowerment. And I think, during this crazy transformational shift that I spoke more in depth to last week, I think it's more important now than ever to be really conscious and conscientious about what we are tuning into, what the message is that we are that we are thinking and believing and acting upon in our life. And, that being said, I think that we all have this responsibility to be really, really conscientious of what sort of media and news and podcasts and information we are being exposed to, because a lot of it is laden with a little bit of fear, a little bit of angst, a little bit of, something along those lines. And if it's not fear and if it's not icky in that sense, then maybe it's just angry and against and fighting for a cause or something like that. And I want to try and keep this message, this theme, this voice on this podcast one that is peaceful. And we know that peace is really synonymous with health as far as the body is concerned. I talk all the time about how the state of peace in the body is one that promotes health and healing. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the rest and digest. It's that sort of thing. Anyway, so that's really the point of this podcast, is to maintain that. So I want to be really really mindful of the guests and conversations that I have. Want to continue to promote a peaceful feeling for us all, right? And on that note, today's episode, I am going to be talking about change. I'm going to be talking about how to change in a way that feels good, in a way that is sustainable, in a way that promotes health and well-being. And this is obviously a pretty huge topic that can be taken in so many different directions. But really, it became clear to me just in the last couple weeks how change happens, how natural, organic, sustainable, healthy change happens. Because I know, and that we can all change short-term things. We can all force things to happen. I can set my alarm for 4 a.m. and wake up and go to the gym, and I can follow a diet regimen. I can, we did our Alter Health cleanse, which was a structured 10-day kind of protocol, and we can all follow those kind of that kind of guideline, those protocols. If someone gives us some prescription, we're gonna be able to fill the prescription. We're going to be able to carry out the tasks at hand, at least for some period of time, right? And usually for different people, there comes a point, depending on how long it is for each individual, that that sort of structure, that sort of forcing doesn't always feel good, and it doesn't always continue to lead to the results that we want, both kind of on the physical world reality side of things, as well as the well-being that we're all seeking, I think, to some degree within. So today I wanted to talk about real, authentic, healthy change in a way that promotes a good feeling. And the reason why this came to my mind to talk about is in the last 2 weeks, I have talked with a few clients, a few different clients in a few different circumstances who've shared with me how they have changed, how their habits have changed without trying. And I'm always just like, wow, well, isn't that really fascinating? How things change, things shift when we don't try. And like on the contrary, it's like we try to force things, we try to create change, and we once again we set the alarm for 4 a.m. or whatever. We print off the recipes for our new diet. We read the book. We listen to the podcasts. We do all that stuff to kind of promote the change. But then it something sticks. Something gets sticky, and it feels clunky, and we fall off the wagon, so to speak, in whether it's a day or a week or a month or a year. At some point, a lot of people in this paradigm of force and structure and willpower, we just kind of lose it. We just kind of lose it or let go or fall off, and that's okay. I want to bring forward in this conversation an alternative path that promotes change sustainably and feels good. So, back to the occurrence with the clients in the last few weeks, I've had a few conversations where people have just said, I used to be a quote unquote kind of emotional eater, and I used to go towards the cookies or potato chips at times of stress and anxiety. And now I didn't even think about it, but I haven't had any of that stuff despite feeling a little stress and anxiety at times. Um, which, by the way, in our current times, if you don't feel stress, if you don't feel anxiety, you might want to take your pulse, and because these feelings are totally natural because they come from our thoughts. And if you're not having thoughts of like what the heck is going on in the world, at least maybe a couple times a day or a couple times a week, it's okay to have those thoughts. If you're not having those thoughts, you don't need to have those thoughts. But if you are having those thoughts and you are having the corresponding feelings of stress and anxiety, that is okay. That is healthy. That means you are a human being on planet Earth in the year 2020, which I know is off to a crazy start, but I still have hopes for 2020. So back to change, back to this point of healthy, natural, effortless change. And I think we've all probably had an experience of changing something in our lives without really trying. We just kind of let it happen. And maybe we can more easily come up with examples of changes that have not been healthy. Maybe we started drinking more. Maybe we started eating more junk food. Maybe changes have gone in that direction, so to speak, in an unhealthy direction as far as our habits are concerned. But I bet if we all really kind of take a minute to ponder, we can also think about changes that we have made, maybe not so much in your lifestyle, but changes that we've made that have promoted a good feeling. And for example, maybe you started to pick up the phone and call your family members more often. Maybe you decided to play with your cat more often. That's one thing that I've been doing. Our new kitten, new part of the Alter family. So anyways, we have these new habits and new behaviors that come up all the time. And then there are the really sticky ones, the things that are kind of hard to change, but nevertheless, we try so hard to change these sticky habits that maybe have been with us for years and decades or our entire life, maybe even beyond this life, right? Maybe we feel like we are born with some of these habits that are just so difficult to shake. Nevertheless, we think about these habits maybe every day, maybe a few times a day as we engage in these practices and behaviors that we might not be so proud of, and we want so badly to just wake up one day and to be different, for things to all be gone and new. Um, so maybe we have a tendency to listen to podcasts that point us in a direction of potential answers. Maybe we have a tendency to read books that provide strategies for dealing with this habit or that habit. Maybe we follow, nutritional coaches or kind of, diet plans who put us on some new path of healthy eating in some way or another. But all of these things, what they have in common, all of these practices, is that they put the problem that we are looking to solve, so to speak, the problem, quote unquote, because it's only a problem for us. It's not a problem for the rest of the world necessarily, but our problems, quote unquote, are problems for us that we want answers to, we want solutions for. So we put that problem, so to speak, at the center of the universe as far as it's concerned. And we just look from that perspective of being kind of one with the problem. We look out in the world for potential solutions, for answers, for help, for relief, for something new, some new feeling, some new thought. And that can lead us in any one of really infinite directions, right? As far as temporary solutions to the problem that we face. So, once again, we tend to identify with the problem, kind of be one with the problem, and think about it from a place of how can I fix this? How can I look out in the world? How can I organize my life? What can I do to fix this problem? And then so that's really the predominant way of navigating change, of changing habits, changing behaviors, um, changing all sorts of things, right? It's to kind of really clearly identify the problem, and from there look out for new answers, new solutions. So that, we've all tried that, right? We all maybe continue to try that, continue to re-identify with the problem, and then look out in the world each and every day for hopefully some new answer that might provide a little bit more relief, a little bit more traction for a little bit longer a period of time. But nevertheless, so often we just kind of revert into the habit, into the pattern, into the behavior, regardless of how much we so desperately want to change. So I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what the thing in your life is that you really seek change to or change from, whether it's a way of eating, whether it's a personality trait, or a reactionary tendency to get upset or irritated or have a low self-esteem, be self-conscious of this. Maybe it's someone in your life, maybe it's a relationship that you want so desperately to change, but every time you're kind of together, things just are not a good feeling. So whatever it is, you can kind of just reflect on that and think of, I'm sure you've thought about all the things that you've done or tried to change. And now I want to start to shift the conversation here and now into a different direction, one that maybe you haven't even ever considered or thought about ever. And that's really what the opportunity is, as far as I'm concerned, is to, it's like, all right, we've had this life, however many decades of life, we've accumulated all of these experiences over the course of our life, and they have made us who we are. All of our life experience really crystallizes to create our sense of self, our personality, what we believe and what we think, and what not what we think, but what we believe, because our beliefs are just kind of the thoughts that we think over and over again and think to be true. So we all have become condensed, so to speak, over the course of our lives. And really, what I want to present to you right now is a possibility of everything that you have done, everything that you have created, all of the experiences that have led you to who you are right now in this present moment. I want to present you the possibility that all of that could be in an instant, like right now, or tomorrow, or in next week, whenever it is, in an instant, everything could totally dissolve and disintegrate. I'm not talking about you, your physical body, but I'm talking about like your whole paradigm of life. And I'm also not talking about like, no near-death experience needed, no paralysis needed, no brain injury needed, nothing like that needed. All of those things and others as well, if you consider like a traumatic experience, being held up at gunpoint, all of those things could really, in an instant, totally change our mindset and maybe even our entire personality forever in an instant. Like everything that we know and believe could be totally blown to bits and pieces in an instant. But we don't need those sort of external circumstances that catalyze that change. That dissolution of past experiences and thoughts and that sense of self can happen in an instant. And I know this is getting a little woo-woo out there, and hopefully you're with me, and to some degree at least. But from that place of infinite possibility, just it's like you are walking along a cliff, and you're walking on this narrow path, and you could like jump off the cliff into, let's say it's into a beautiful ocean. You're not going to jump off to your death or anything, but you can like easily, totally just jump into newness, into that infinite possibility. And maybe that's not the best example. Maybe that's not the best metaphor. Maybe let's, rather than walking along a cliff, let's walk in the woods. And we come to a meadow in the woods where it's just, beautiful open meadow. And our path has brought us to this meadow, but from this meadow there's just paths going in every direction, and mountains all around us, and lakes in that direction, and a river down that canyon. And it's like the world is our oyster, so to speak. We can put our energy down any one of these paths and just go. So I really like to think about life as being just continually walking into that meadow of infinite possibilities, where the whole world could drastically shift and transform for us. So what does this have to do with change? What the heck am I talking about? Well, in this meadow, in this field of infinite possibility, it's like what Rumi said. This quote is just coming to me as, we find ourselves in the meadow. Out beyond right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. So that's what's coming to mind right now, is that field of just infinite possibilities and also non-judgment. And that's really the most important part, is when we're in that place of just witnessing ourselves, when we're in that place of just being one with ourselves, there is no judgment. There's just a good feeling. And there's a recognition of just the beauty of life and the infinite possibilities that are at our fingertips. So, in that field, there is no problem. We have these tendencies, we have these habits, you could say. We have had these tendencies and habits formed throughout the life, but none of them are problematic. There is no problemo. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. So, from that place of nothing being wrong, then we can, then and only then, I think, we can truly navigate onto a path that feels good, where we're not dragging this weight of judgment and feeling like we need to fix something going on into our future, going on into our world. That's not to say that habits can be destructive, like drugs and alcohol can ruin our lives and relationships if we continue down that path for so long. But changing habits doesn't mean that we must continue to maintain and hold on to that judgment that has been with us for years or decades. We can drop that judgment and be in that place of non-judgment, of love and understanding of ourselves, our tendencies and habits that have led to this field, this now moment. We can recognize the power and the perfection that has guided us to this very moment. And then we can, open up to the infinite possibilities of change. So rather than focus on new habits, new behaviors from a place of fixing a problem, really my point is that we can choose new habits and new behaviors just purely on this premise of feeling good. And we are so used to taking the outside feedback from our world, what this person thinks I should do, what that person says. But so seldom are we really, trusting that feeling that we have within. And I want to argue that that feeling that we have within is really the only glimmer of truth that exists in all of the universe. The diet book and the protocol that doctor offered, and the no stop smoking plan that this person followed, that's all good in terms of what might have helped that person or this person and that habit or this habit. But for you and only you, there is only one true answer, and that true answer is inside of you. And we can take all of the external feedback that we get from the world and filter it in and try it on and feel it out. But when it comes down to the sustainable solutions that we all seek, we really have to navigate from a deep understanding within. We can't rely on external feedback and information. We can take that in and then feel it and then resonate with it and see how it feels, right? And that's really the opportunity for us all, because we've been living in this world where we're told what to do and how to live. We're told that, through marketing, through societal norms and everything, we're told what we should be doing all the time, what we should be eating, drinking, wearing, listening to, watching. All the things are kind of being forced upon us. So there's this incredible opportunity that we all have to really take responsibility for what our soul, for lack of a better term, is really yearning for, and not what our society wants for us, but what we want for us. So back to change again, and I'll try to just kind of pinpoint my point here, what I'm trying to convey for you all, which is I do believe it's beyond words and more towards a feeling. But my point is that there are no problems. Your habits are no problem. There is no problem. I remember learning that we really don't create new habits as much as we think. We just tend to change our habits. So if we just look in a real, tangible, physical world example, it's like we can have a habit of waking up in the morning and putting a Pop Tart in the toaster oven and popping out our Pop Tart and hopping in our car and driving to school or to work or wherever it might be. And like that's one habit. And then we can change that habit to waking up in the morning, stretching, going for a walk, and making a smoothie and putting our smoothie in a jar and hopping in our car and driving to work or to school or wherever it might be. So those two examples are obviously like a very tangible, easy to understand and comprehend thing when it comes to changing habits. Like, maybe you're addicted to the Pop Tart. Maybe you're addicted to whatever it is. Maybe you have this kind of habitual addictive tendency to just lean towards what is comfortable and what is what has been your kind of status quo. But once again, if we can orient ourselves to that field of infinite possibilities that really does exist in every single moment, and we can make our choices from not self-judgment and not from this like top-down thinking, forcing perspective, but from this bottom up, inside out feeling perspective where we make our choices based on what feels aligned and feels good in the moment. And I think that's honestly where a lot of people get hung up, because people will say, like, oh, well, eating a large cheese pizza with pepperoni and beer, that feels good. And I'm not talking about what feels good for your taste buds as much as I'm talking about what feels good for your soul. And yeah, maybe a slice of cheese pizza or something might be some good soul food at some point in your life. But in terms of making a habit out of that, does that feel good for your soul? I don't know. I mean, maybe not. My soul yearns for different things, and let's just leave it at that. But I think everyone's soul yearns for something unique. But I think that really it is a matter of discerning authentic craving, authentic enjoyment, soul level satisfaction with momentary, short lived, egoic satisfaction. And I think that a lot of people are so used to living by that short lived satisfaction, those quick fixes, so to speak, that we, aren't able to really even connect with what our soul wants. But the fact is that your soul and what it wants, it's always got this clear yearning for something. And if we can just pause, if we can just put down our thinking, if we can just put down what we're doing, if we can just put our feet on the ground and take a breath and maybe even close your eyelids for a second, our soul is totally speaking to us. It's totally receptive to all of the feedback and information that the universe has to continually offer us. And our soul does speak to us in various forms. So it's a matter of really attuning with that and recognizing that soul craving over the authentic craving. And just to reiterate and speak a little bit more directly to the distinction between the authentic soul level cravings and the egoic, for lack of a better term, short-lived cravings. The soul level cravings come from a peaceful feeling. Whenever the soul is speaking to us, it speaks in a grounded, more or less peaceful state. Whereas the egoic cravings and tendencies and habits, we often feel much differently, right? Usually we feel a little on edge. Usually we feel a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of this gotta have it now, a little bit of this, you know, I don't know what it feels like for you, but just like shaky, not grounded. Let's just leave it at that. It's not a grounded feeling. And I trust that we all have the distinction within ourselves of grounded and present versus ungrounded and unpresent. And that's really what it comes down to. Your unique flavor and experience of grounded versus ungrounded. So once again, it's an opportunity of connecting with the groundedness of who you are and making your decisions from that place and not judging the moments and times where you don't feel grounded, because I don't know about you, but I certainly don't feel grounded 100% of my life, and think that having those expectations are kind of ridiculous. Like to expect to be grounded and peaceful and in my center 100% of my life. I guess I do. I guess I do honestly want to be grounded more of the time. I want to be centered and peaceful more of the time. But who doesn't, right? Like we all want to be more peaceful, more grounded, more centered. Um, but to have the freedom to let go of that desire and that need and that craving to be grounded and centered more of the time and just be more present and accepting of my humanity and of my human tendencies to feel a little bit on edge. That's totally okay and healthy, right? It's healthy to be human. It's not healthy to be superhuman. It's not, those expectations that so many of us, including me at times, have for ourselves. That's not healthy. But we can let that go. And most importantly, back to my point of change, is we can not act. We can not react when we're in those places of reaction that we have tended to be reactive from. And instead just like be present and just recognize like, oh, that's really interesting. I've got this anxious feeling coursing through my body right now. Maybe that feeling in the past would have led me to pick up a chocolate bar or a, martini or a cigarette or whatever it is. But hey, like that feeling is really interesting. What does it mean? Maybe nothing. I wonder what feeling will come in a moment from now. And the thing that I notice for myself is that like the moment that I recognize the purity of the feeling and feel the purity of the feeling, it's gone. It's totally gone. And then like the choosing of the healthy behavior is just a natural byproduct of what comes from the peaceful presence that is just on the other side, just beneath, all around the feeling of anxiety is that peaceful, grounded center. Because that's really who we truly are. That really is who you truly are, is a peaceful, grounded, centered being who is having a human experience. So, back to the change, back to the natural, effortless, organic, healthy, sustainable change that we all crave. It comes from your peaceful, loving, grounded core, who you truly are. It comes from your essence. And it is effortless because that's who you are. You are not somebody who needs to try to be more of who you already are. You are you, and you are a peaceful, healthy, grounded individual. And the more that we can simply become aware of our tendency to reside out of that, the more we're able to, make our choices from the grounded, peaceful center. So once again, it's not about perfection. It's not about being grounded all the time. It's about cultivating awareness, and the word that I really like to use is sensitivity. It's about cultivating sensitivity to the moments where we feel out of balance, so to speak. And for everybody, that sensitivity is unique and different. For some people, it is tension in the neck. For some people, it is something in the pit of your stomach. Maybe it's a little clamminess in your palms or shakiness in your fingertips. Or maybe it's just this intuitive knowing that is beyond palpable sensation. But in any case, we all know what it feels like to be grounded and present, and we all know what it feels like to be not grounded and not present and anxious and self-conscious. Whatever it is, whatever the physiological or emotional experience is for you, it's healthy, it's normal, it's human. And the more that we can become sensitive to it, the more we can appreciate it and love it and integrate it, the more we're able to effortlessly live our lives from the grounded place, make our decisions and choices from the grounded place. So back to the conversations that I have had in the last couple weeks with people who have said, Dr. Ben, out of nowhere, I'm just finding that I am, not engaging in these unhealthy habits and behaviors that have really dictated and ruled my life for decades. Like, how crazy is that? And I don't think it's crazy at all, because I think that health, I think that balance, I think that these nurturing tendencies are very much who we are. And a lot of us have simply been misprogrammed to seek out these short-term fixes that are unsustainable and really don't feel good. But once we start to really get a taste of who we truly are, then it's just so easy to live our lives from there. It's so easy and natural, and feels so good to live our lives from there. And, I'm not perfect. I hope you're not perfect, because you're a human being. And with every human being, there's this humanity intermeshed with our divinity, right? There is the divine essence of who you are, which is perfect, but there's the messiness and the imperfection of your humanness. And that's really the amazing thing to me, is that everyone's got their beautiful, messy humanness, and everyone's got their crystal clear, perfect, grounded, innate divinity, that spark of life that really is in all things on our planet, in this universe. So I don't know if I if I conveyed really what I wanted to with regard to change, with regard to sustainable change, with regard to healthy habits. Um, but hopefully, if you've tuned in throughout this conversation, you have a feeling that feels good, that connects you with who you truly are. And that feeling that you may or may not have when you feel grounded and peaceful. And maybe you don't feel it now, but maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you feel it when you're walking in nature. Maybe you feel it when you're playing with your children or your grandchildren. Maybe you feel it when you're with your loved one. Maybe you feel it when you're watching the news, even though that's not when I tend to feel it. But hey, I'm open to feeling it when I'm watching the news or reading mainstream media news articles or things like that. The fact is that grounded, peaceful essence that is your true nature is the place from which all of your healthy, sustainable habits come from. And that is a place of non-judgment. There's no problem, no problemo, hakuna matata in that place. There is no worries, there is no problem. There's only continuous opportunities to learn and grow and to experience new things and to try and try again. And that's the beautiful thing about life, is that we are here for a lifetime. And if we think, and trust me, I have thought that it is my responsibility to master life as quickly as I can and to create my optimally healthy habits and self nurturing habits and high performance productive habits as quickly as I can so that I can just coast on throughout my life. But the fact is, if you are here in a physical human life, if you are living, breathing, eating, thinking, then you have learning and growing and healing to do. And that's an amazing thing. That's not a bad thing. That's not a scary thing. It's a very exciting thing. So let's orient ourselves toward the possibility of healing, the possibility of learning, of newness. Let's live on the edge, so to speak. Let's live in that field of infinite possibilities where everything is totally possible. I think I've said possible enough, right? So, anyways, habits. How are yours? Could you use a helping hand when it comes to finding and connecting with the habits and behaviors and mindset from which your habits and behaviors come from? If you'd like to talk more about this, you can certainly connect for a complimentary one-on-one session. We like to talk to new clients for 15 minutes, get to know you, see where you're at in your life and with regard to your healthy habits. And really, one thing that I'm just so excited about right now in life is the medicinal living mastermind that we're doing at Alter Health. It's a 6-month program where people are coming in to understand how to navigate healthy, sustainable change and do so from a place that feels good, that is a grounded place of understanding how our mindset influences our physiology and our life, and how we really do have a huge role to play with regard to shifting the trajectory of our human experience. We are not at the whim of life. We are in control. We are powerful co-creators of our human experience, and really understanding how our mind and thoughts and consciousness come together to color and shape and form our experience on planet Earth at this time. It's exciting and empowering. So, once again, don't know how much you got with regard to your trajectory of habits and behaviors and change. I don't know where you are, but the goal is to really understand your true nature and to really understand how to move and think and create from your grounded, pure essence. What do you think? Any feedback? Any thoughts? How did this land? How are you feeling? Not what do you think. I'm really curious about how you're feeling, because we can be thinking anything, and I don't want you to think about what you're thinking. I want you to feel what you're feeling. So on that note, you guys, I just send you off with blessings of love and hope and healing, and would so appreciate if you would leave some feedback. Let me know how this lands. Let me know what you got from this, what you're feeling from this, and if you'd like to learn more about the mastermind and maybe apply for the next enrollment period of the mastermind, you can find out more at www.alter.health. And last announcement, something else that we're really excited about is the plant-based and stress-free Facebook group. This is a free community, an online Facebook group, and you can find out more at facebook.com/groups/alterhealth. A lot of cool stuff happening in this Facebook group, you guys. This is where we host our whole food plant-based challenges. We've got another one coming up, I believe, at the end of May, about a month away. But in the meantime, people are sharing recipes, people are sharing wins, people are sharing insights. And Dr. Susanna and myself go on in that group every Monday for our Medicinal Monday session. and every Thursday for the recording of the Alter Your Health live episode on Thursdays. So people in the group are voting on topics that they want to hear more about, want to learn more about. So it's a great place to engage and interact with like-minded individuals. So with that, you guys, I hope you are getting out in the world. I hope you are breathing fresh air. I hope you are engaging in health promoting activities that feel good. And I hope you are doing it from a place of love and understanding of your true nature, the beautiful, awesome, divine being that you truly are. So peace and love, you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time.